I get itchier looking at another outdoor wine cooler, and the thought of dropping a few $100s on something that ends up collecting dust is nagging at the back of your mind. You've probably spent an hour scrolling through specs, watching a couple of unboxing videos, and wondering if the cooler you pick will actually keep that prized bottle at the perfect sipping temperature without turning your patio into a mini refrigeration lab. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What you really need is a straightforward rundown that tells you whether the Summerset Grill's SSRFR 15W 15-inch outdoor rated wine cooler fits your lifestyle or if it's just another gadget that looks good on paper. Outdoor wine coolers sit in a tricky spot. On one hand, you want the convenience of having a dedicated climate-controlled space right next to where you entertain, but on the other you're battling the elements: sun, wind, humidity, even the occasional summer thunderstorm. Most indoor units simply can't survive being left outside, and the cheaper outdoor options often skimp on temperature precision, leaving you with wine that's either too warm or too cold. The key is finding a unit that's built to tolerate the outdoors while still offering the fine temperature control that a serious wine lover expects. That's where the Summerset model tries to make its case. First off, it's UL certified for outdoor use, which isn't just a marketing badge. It means the internal components have been tested to meet safety standards under fluctuating temperatures and moisture. The cabinet itself is made from 304 stainless steel A grade that resists corrosion better than the typical brushed steel you see on many patio appliances. This matters if you live in a coastal area where salty air can turn a regular metal shell into rust in a season. The built-in digital temperature controller with an LCD readout lets you dial in a range from the typical 45°F up to 65°F, covering the sweet spot for most reds, whites, and Ross. And because the lock is factory installed, you can actually secure a few bottles that you don't want guests to tamper with, something you rarely see on the competition. Who should consider this cooler? If you're a homeowner with a dedicated patio or a covered deck where you entertain most evenings, and you own a modest collection of 12 to 15 bottles that you'd like to keep at hand, this unit slots in nicely. It's also a solid choice for someone who runs a small wine-focused event. Think a backyard wedding tasting or a monthly friends-only wine club, because the 15-inch footprint doesn't dominate the space, yet it still holds enough bottles to make the effort worthwhile. The digital display gives you instant feedback, so you can adjust the thermostat on the fly if the weather swings unexpectedly. On the flip side, if you're a serious collector with a cellar of hundreds of bottles, or you need a cooler that can double as a general outdoor fridge for snacks and beverages, you'll probably feel cramped. The 15-inch width translates to roughly a half-dozen standard bottles per shelf, and the interior height isn't enough for larger magnum formats. Also, because it's a dedicated wine cooler, the shelving is designed for wine bottles rather than mixed items, so you can't just toss a six-pack of soda in there without sacrificing space for your wine. Lastly, while the unit plugs into a standard 120V outlet, you'll need a nearby power source or an outdoor-rated extension cord, which adds a small installation step that some buyers overlook. What sets this cooler apart in practical terms is how it handles the day-to-day temperature swings. Users who have placed it under a pergola report that even on a sweltering 92°F afternoon, the internal temperature stays within a couple of degrees of the set point, thanks to the stainless steel insulation and the sealed door design. The digital controller isn't just a read-only gauge. You can program a nighttime temperature that's a shade cooler, then let it rise a degree or two during the day, perfect for those who enjoy a slightly warmer white wine in the sunshine but want reds chilled for dinner. The security lock, while simple, is actually useful if you have a shared space. You can lock the door with a key and keep a few bottles away from curious kids or party crashers. No product is flawless, and the Summerset cooler has a couple of practical trade-offs. The most common complaint that crops up in forums is that the unit can be a bit noisy when the compressor cycles on, especially if you're sitting right next to it on a small patio. It's not a deafening hum, but if you're a quiet dinner purist, you might notice the faint buzz. Another point to consider is that the unit's exterior finishes in a brushed stainless look that can show water spots or fingerprints. A quick wipe down with a microfiber cloth solves it, but it does mean you'll be cleaning it more often than you would a plain white unit. Finally, because the cooler is designed for outdoor use, the power cord.